Okay. All right. So this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format with some participants attending physically, as you can see here, and others on the Zoom call. This meeting will be airing on Comcast 9, Verizon 47, or on PAC TV's YouTube channel, which can be viewed on pactv.org/stream. The ground rules here are any speaker giving public comment is allotted up to 5 minutes in which to speak. Public comment can be made at the beginning or the end of our meeting or in regard to a particular agenda item in which the speaker would like to be heard. Anyone can attend our meetings virtually, or they could actually come here. You can give your comment through virtual, and you can use the Zoom app or go to your computer and type in zoom.us, go to the meetings, and use our meeting code 995-2986-0638. That's 995-2986-0638. And our meeting passcode is 100131. You can also join by telephone. We will not be able to see your smiling face, but we will hear you by dialing 929-205-6099 and using the meeting code 995-2986-0638 and our passcode 100131. I would advise you not to call while you're driving because something we might say might cause you to drive off the road. So you have been warned. The views of the members of this committee are their own opinions and not necessarily reflecting the majority view of this committee. So, seeing no public here, I'll still offer if there's anybody who would like to make a public comment before we get moving. All right, we're moving fast. Oh, Al, I do see a member. I see a building, but I don't see a person. All right, he's not speaking up. Okay, so I'll start off the meeting on a down note. We have a resignation from a committee member. No, it's not me yet, guys. Don't get all freaked out, and don't cheer either. Mr. Jeff Wright has a lot going on and has stepped off the committee. So I thank him for his service here, and we are interviewing now for our 15th committee member. So if there's anybody in the public who would like to be on our committee, you should contact the town clerk pretty quickly and get your resume in. Okay, so let's move on to approving the minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting. I am going to make a major assumption that everybody has read those minutes and can recite them with their eyes closed, verbatim. And we are going to ask for a motion. How about Mr. Malaguti? Would you like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 20th?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Butler, how do you vote on the the October 20th, 2024 minutes?
No, I wasn't here, but I was on Zoom. So I was going
If you were on Zoom,
Okay.
you were here.
You were here.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lally,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
Mr. Malaguti.
Abstain.
Okay, Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Tompkins,
Yes.
and Mr. Trudell.
Yes.
So we had 10 yeses, 1 abstention. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to discuss the Oak Street audit request. Oh, you give me the thumbs up. She's here? Where is she? I don't see her. Hello, is Ms. Slusher on the line?
I am.
Oh my gosh, there she is. All right, great. We're going to actually move to get you out of here quickly. I moved you up in the order, so thank you for popping in. So we're
Thank
going
you.
to move up in the order to your request, here we go, to increase fiscal 2025 spending cap for master plan Hedges Pond revolving fund. I am going to call on Ann Slusser, the recreation director. She's requesting a one-time increase of $53,000 to the spending cap for the Hedges Pond revolving fund. This adjustment would raise the total spending cap on fiscal 25 to $113,000. The additional funds are needed to cover the cost of incorporating the Hedges Pond Master Plan study into the already funded Forges Master Plan study, since the Hedges Pond Master Plan was added after last year's initial capital planning process. It was not included in the original fiscal 25 spending cap request. So as you all know, this is not an appropriation of funds. This is it's, I guess the best way to think of it is like a line of credit that you don't really have it. You basically are meeting your revenue with expenses. So we're not giving you money, we're expanding the opportunity for you to get the money. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Slusser for a better explanation.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're looking to increase the current spending cap to the 53,000. We do have an excess of 257,000 currently in the account. So it's not like it's going to draw down a negative on that account. It would just bring the balance down to approximately 204,000 from that. And the funds that are raised in that are from the Hedges Pond half-day playground program, any rentals that come in for the facility, and then also some of the parking revenue from the beach parking.
Can you, for the information for some of our new people and some of our current people, give us a sense of what types of programs, specific programs that you offer and fund?
Sure. So currently at Hedges Pond, we offer a half-day playground program. Every summer, it's about a 7 to 8 week program, depending on when the kids get out of school. There's approximately 250 children registered every summer for that program. We also run some smaller programs. We run a nature program for like preschoolers. We've run some soccer programs there. Plymouth Youth Soccer uses the facility as part of their operations in the spring and in the fall. And then beach parking is part of it during the summer months as well.
Excellent. Do we have any questions for Ms. Slusher? Okay, very good. Mr. Let's see. Who should I ask? Mr. Lally, would you like to make a motion, please, to approve the request to increase fiscal 25 spending cap for Master Plan Hedges Pond?
I move that we approve this request.
Thank you so much. And Ms. O'Connor, would you please second that motion?
Seconded.
Excellent. Any discussion amongst us? Yes, let's start it off with
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Green.
I remember the revolving fund debate of 2023 fondly in my heart. But I will say, you know, as we go through the budget next year, if there's an opportunity to be a little more aggressive on the revolving fund amounts, so we don't have to kind of chip away and keep adding more, because they can't spend more than they take in, and they can't overspend their account, so there's no risk, as far as I'm concerned. So as we go into the next budget season, we could save the town department heads a little time by getting a little more aggressive on the revolving funds, because I don't think there's really much that we can lose from doing that.
I appreciate that. And Ms. Slusher, correct me if I'm wrong, but this request did come in after the budget was set. So if we had known this beforehand, we could have taken care of it then. So, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it was kind of added after the fact. We were doing the master plan already, like creating the master plan for Forges and, you know, developing that contract and bid. And we're talking about how to better develop this park. And it was, you know, better for us to do a whole master plan than just kind of hope that we know what to put into the facility. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we will go to the roll call. Again, we are voting to approve or reject the request to increase fiscal '25 spending cap for the Master Plan Hedges Pond Revolving Fund. Ms. Butler, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lally?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler?
Yes.
Mr. Malaguti?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Tompkins?
Yes.
Mr. Trudell?
Yes.
We have 12 that have voted for, 0 against, and 0 abstentions. And it passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Ms. Slusher, for taking time out in your day to walk us through this, and best of luck in a great summer season.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You too. Okay, now that we got the pleasantries out of the way, now let's discuss the Oak Street audit request. In our last meeting, this committee overwhelmingly, actually unanimously, voted to pursue an audit of the Oak Street project. Since then, we've had some time to look at this deeply, and I'm going to read the Plymouth Charter Bylaw 2-12-6 that says, quote, "The Advisory and Finance Committee shall have the authority at any time to investigate the town's accounts and management, and the books, records, and accounts of all departments of the town shall be open to the inspection of the Advisory and Finance Committee or any of its authorized subcommittees and any person employed by it." Okay, so again, all 15 members of this committee voted to move forward with the audit. However, the Select Board recently said no to our request. And so here we are, trying to hold people accountable that do business with this town, and we've run into kind of a stone wall. So I'm going to turn this discussion over to Mr. Lawler, who has been intricately involved in researching.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Lally, but before I do, in analyzing the charter and what the charter deems the Finance Committee to do as a responsibility as its members, it seems to me somewhat vague. And what happens if the Finance Committee does request something? What's the next level? What is the process from that point? And there are many different levels of in this subject between the process of what to do with Oak Street, but I'm talking about at a much higher level. And Mr. Lally will continue with this, but I am very concerned that once our committee unanimously determines that an audit should be performed, then what? And that void is something that I think we should get into, and Mr. Lally's going to talk a little bit more about that. But I think we have our teeth into something right now, whereas what are our responsibilities? And where does it go from here when a committee such as ours, which we're responsible and we answer to the town, we do not answer to the Select Board, we answer to the town. And it's our duty to represent the town and answer to it. Okay, we said to do something as a committee, unanimously. Now what? I'll turn over the rest of the discussion for now to Mr. Lally. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to make one point. The thing that I'm grappling with, and I spoke with Mr. Lawler about this, is that the bylaw keeps mentioning the town's accounts, the town's department, and doesn't mention what happens when there's a commercial enterprise doing business with the town, and what purview we have over, in this case, a commercial enterprise that has failed in its obligation. What kind of authority do we have based on the bylaw? And you're right, it is kind of vague, but anybody who does business with this town becomes the town's business, if I'm not mistaken, so.
And I agree with that, but in this particular case, Mr. Chairman, we're talking about the actions of CPC. We're talking about a committee level of the planning board as oversight. We're talking about our committee as an oversight, and our committee found that we want and require an audit. So within those guidelines of CPC and the planning board, which are departments of the town, which fall under our jurisdiction of oversight. That's where I'm going, but again, I will move over to Mr. Lally.
Fair enough. Okay, Mr. Lally, the floor is yours now.
Well, I want to bifurcate what I think are the two issues here. I think are two issues. One was this committee, with, I think, the support of the building committee, wanted to have a construction audit performed. And it wasn't, a construction audit is just not about finance, but it's also about the process of managing a project and to identify where there are areas and opportunities for improvement. So in this case, we had a project that went way over budget, is still, I think, not delivered entirely. It's not, they're still waiting for some things, but, and clearly, at least in the beginning, there was not, I think, the right scrutiny on the plans that were drawn up, both architectural and engineering, and perhaps also during the execution. So I think there's a lot of process issues. You also have this being a non-town-owned building, and at the moment, you know, for right or wrong, the town became the funder of last resort when funding issues came up. So that's its own thing, and I think the intent of the construction audit was to focus on the project controls that are in place or not in place and things that need to be done, and I think that's an important thing to consider as we look at CPC projects that may involve outside entities, as this did, outside from the town of Plymouth. And also, for that matter, town of Plymouth projects that come up, making sure that you know, the project client is clearly identified as opposed to the users, so that the projects can stay within budget, be delivered on time as best as possible, because construction is a very high-risk business. And in my experience, you know, you need to be very careful about who you're going to let manage a project. They can be complicated, and it's something that's learned. So that's just my takeaways from this. So as we look at future CPC projects, and for that matter, future town projects, I think as Advisory and Finance Committee, we just want to have an eye on not only what's being built, but how it's being, you know, what are the project controls in place. And the Building Committee, I also think, has a very, very important role, and continues to play a very, very important role in this. So that's that. I think on the issue of looking at the charter, I infer that, you know, yes, we can ask for a charter, for an audit, and it seems to infer that we can employ outside entities to perform that for us. But in a brief discussion with our finance director, Ms. Barrett, this afternoon, the Advisory and Finance Committee has no resources to do that. And typically, the process, as I understand it, and I don't I haven't done a deep dive on this, but we typically have to go through a town, sponsored, I think was the word used, by a town department who's actually going to be contracting with a vendor to provide these services. So to me, that's all gray matter area right now. So if we do indeed have this authority, then it appears at the moment we don't have the resources to exercise that authority. And that's a bigger question that, might be considered in this budget cycle, for example. But that's as far as I've gotten with this, and I started at about 11:30 today on this particular research effort.
Before I go back to Mr. Lawler, Ms. Richards, you have a comment or question, and the floor is now yours.
I think it's a question. Don't we have a budget
I thought we did.
for advisory and finance, 150,000?
Yeah, there's a budget item in the budget for us.
So why couldn't we use that?
Again, what I heard today, and from Ms. Barrett, and maybe I heard it wrong, but there's a reserve set up that advisory and finance can, if they so choose, use to cover unexpected bills by other departments, should they choose to do that. So it seems like there might be, but that was the explanation I got so far. And I'm not casting aspersions, I'm just saying that's what I've learned to date. So like I said, I have this issue that says we have this authority in the charter to go accomplish things. I think the select board it felt to me, and I use the word carefully here, feels to me like, well, if you want to go do one, sure, go do one, on your own time and as a volunteer.
Your own money.
And that doesn't necessarily feel good to me. So I'm just digesting at this point, and we'll see where this discussion goes. Because to me, the audit's sort of out of the way right now, and it has to do with the question of, from a charter perspective, maybe, what are the resources that are available to FinCom, or what should they have? Because the charter, to me, my individual opinion, seems to indicate that we do have the ability to command resources and get certain things done.
Okay, so I think we need to state what we think we're going to get out of this if we go down that road. What's the main goal for doing an audit of a project that's already pretty much done? I mean, there's nothing we can do at this point with this project to make it right.
I mean, you can't audit a project that hasn't been done, though, so I think the only time that you get to take a post-mortem look at anything is a situation like this, and this is one example, but I know, like, not to bring up an example from now, I'm getting old, so 20-something years ago, but, like, when we did the new Plymouth South Middle School, we were ripping that school apart 3 years after, 4 years, 5 years after it was built, because of the way it was done. So this is a one-off right now, but over time, this isn't the only example of something going wrong like this in this town. So if we're gonna uncover some kind of a process that we're lacking that's gonna allow us to not have that issue in the future, I think this is kind of also pretty, I don't wanna say small scale because of the cost, but a pretty small scale project when we're talking about that versus like a school. So I think it's kind of, and you know way more than I do because I don't know what I'm talking about, but I would think that you would be more able to like delve down more into what the issues were that caused it, whereas if you're building a $250 million school project, you might have stuff that kind of adds up and changes over time. When we're doing 3 units for $1+ million, I think it's potentially easier to see what the issues were.
Right, and I would like to see the change of process come out of this, or have a process, because...
That really is, I think, perhaps I focus too much on the finances. Usually you can find something, but really it is around the project controls that either were or were not followed during this project, that were in place but were not followed, or the project controls that are missing in a project like this, because there are going to be more of these that keep coming down, and rather than just saying no, because certainly the goals and objectives of a project like this are worthy, but not at 1 point something million over 3 times, or maybe I'm exaggerating, at least 2 times the original project budget. And also I think it's one of the questions as a process issue, go into a project like this is identifying who the funder of last resort is. It shouldn't always be the town.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Lawler, and then I will go to Mr. Howard, and then I'll go to Ms. Richards.
By the way, Mr. Dunn, you do know what you're talking about. You're absolutely right. The time to take an audit, do an audit, is after the project is completed. And once again, that's when you find out what's under the covers. And it's very, very important to understand not only that, but where are the teeth? Where are the teeth? We donate our time, we work hard as a committee, we're prudent, we're respected, but we need some teeth. And when we say, as a team, committee, that we more than recommend, it is unanimous, then we need teeth. And in reading this, the articles of the charter, which I was on the Charter Review Committee, it's vague, but we do have the right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Howard. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Lowley on the points he raised. I personally would like to see a series of more than recommendations. I'd like to see requirements for projects of this magnitude in the future that would apply to CPC projects as well as the housing authority projects to ensure that the processes and controls are in place on future projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. I'm going to my left to Ms. Richards. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, and I do agree with my colleagues. And I believe that, yes, at the end of the project, it is important, but it's also important to find out the players involved and in why this project did not succeed, either the contractor, the subcontractor. You know, if it was them, then if it was those various players, then we want to make sure that they're not involved in future projects. You know, and that way we're vetting these future projects, and, you know, if it's, you know, Joe Smith's contractor and Joe Smith failed on a previous project, then we want to say, no, we're not going to approve that. He failed on a previous town project. So those are important points to be brought up. And I remember years ago, and I'm probably dating myself, but there was a large stretch of Sandwich Street that was paved by a contractor, and it was the worst paving job ever. And those of us who lived in town and drove that street, it was awful. It went from a beautifully paved road to a bumpy road within 3 months. So those are all lessons to be learned, and we need to learn them with each of these projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Richards. Any other comments? It appears that we should continue to pursue this offline and report back in our January meeting. I think we're all in agreement that this is something we should pursue. It sounds like we have the money, so we need to nail down that we have the money after spending it on our Christmas party, if there's anything left. That was a joke. Any other comments? Okay, so we'll take this up again in our January meeting, but I think we're on to something, and I think we're all in agreement and fairly passionate about making something good come out of something that was bad, which would be a good thing. Okay, so I have given out all the subcommittee assignments. I am not going to go through who's on which committee, because you know whose committee you're on. The committees are already meeting, and they will be meeting with the department heads So I'm just letting the department heads know you're going to get calls from us, and we're going to be sitting down and going in one by one through all the various budget areas. So that's coming up. Any other old, new, or other business that anybody wants to put on the table before we conclude our very last meeting of the calendar year?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, I didn't see that.
do we have an idea of when we'll see the preliminary or the budget sheets from the departments?
That's
When
a
do we get
great
supporting materials?
question for Jeanette.
They'll be on the town website tomorrow.
Whoa, asking you. shall
Wow,
receive.
I'm impressed. Thank you.
That'll be the town manager's.
She's going to be up
recommended budget.
all night putting them up there.
Happy holidays to us.
Okay, do we have any public comment? I think our public left. Nope, we have a committee comment. Ms. Richards.
I would like to just say happy holidays to my fellow members, and a special happy holiday to Jeanette, who does a wonderful job, and thank you very much.
That's right, we got to give Jeanette here. Without her, we would be lost. So, oh, is that? No. Oh, no, whose hand is that? Is that Mr. Lorenzo? Oh, okay, sorry, okay. All right, well, I'm going to give Al a couple of seconds to, there you go. Okay, Mr. Donato, would you like to make a comment before we wrap up the meeting?
First of all, happy holidays. I hate to ruin a good send-off, but very quickly on this audit, I'm glad you're pursuing it. This notion that the money's not there, I would disagree with that. The select board came up with 100 and something thousand out of opera money. And I want to remind this committee, if it were not for opera money, they would need a warrant article, and that warrant article would be heard before you, the public, and town meeting. So, and this notion I've heard from some that ARPA money is not Plymouth taxpayer money. Well, it's somebody's taxpayer money. Maybe someone in East Oshkosh, but it's their taxpayer money, and hopefully they're going to be a good steward of our opera money when it goes before them. So I'm going to wait and see. I hope there'll be an audit. I was president of our local cable access. We had $1 million project. I welcomed an audit. I went before town meeting and I said, I want an audit. I want this document to be public. Town of Plymouth has had $3 million issues. You had the library roof in 2018, and you had the Sims project. So this is the third $1 million issue. I'm not necessarily speaking as a town meeting member, but I'm speaking as that greatest position of citizen and taxpayer, that we owe it to the taxpayer of what went on here. And again, I'm not suggesting we bring out the gallows. We just want to know what happened. Thank you, and have happy holiday and Merry Christmas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Al. And I think the people in Oshkosh would like nothing more than the people of Plymouth to thrive. So thank you for shouting out Oshkosh. Very important. All right. So we have come to that sad moment when we have to conclude our year and our meeting, and I'm looking for a motion. And how about Ms. Tompkins? Would you like to move that we conclude this wonderful meeting that we're having?
So moved, and it's also my 1-year mark.
All right. Wow, that's survival. Congratulations. Okay, and let's go to, how about, I'll get him involved. Mr. Trudell, would you like to second the motion to conclude this meeting?
I would like to second that motion.
Awesome. Here we go. Ms. Butler, do you vote for or against concluding this
That's a
meeting?
hard one, I guess 4.
Think through it. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lally?
You betcha.
And Mr. Lawler?
Yes.
Mr. Malaguti?
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Bizzarro?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Tompkins?
Yes.
The 1 year? And Mr. Trudell?
Yes.
It is unanimous. We have concluded at 7:36 this meeting. Happy New Year and happy Merry Holidays and all that good stuff.